So you're wondering what's going on in Afghanistan. Well, I'm going to give you a little history lesson and a little update right now. The really quick snippet is the U.S. has finally withdrawn its troops from Afghanistan. The government fell, the bad guys took over. Much longer story. 20 years ago, the Osama bin Laden and al-Qaeda attacked the United States on 9/11, killed 3,000 Americans. Now, where were they hiding out? Where were they working from? Afghanistan. Afghanistan at the time was run by the Taliban, a far right, kind of right, I guess you'd call it, religious fundamentalist Islamic lunatics, terrorists basically. And they were giving harbor to al-Qaeda. Osama bin Laden plans the attacks from there. U.S. says, no way, we decide to invade to take bin Laden out and to take the Taliban out. Well, a couple of years later, 2003, George Bush, who did the invasion, decides he wants to go after Saddam Hussein, the leader of Iraq, instead. So he shifts all of our assets from going after bin Laden to focusing on Iraq, and what happens? The hunt for bin Laden goes away, and the mission in Afghanistan kind of goes woo and gets crazy. A couple years later, by the way, Obama did in fact kill bin Laden, so that's good. Anyway, take it to today, 20 years later. The U.S. has now spent $2 trillion in Afghanistan, trying to establish a legitimate democracy. We spent something like $100 billion trying to build up the military, and everyone kind of thinks it's a disaster, it's not going to go anywhere. Donald Trump steps in last year, and Trump decides that he is going to reach a deal with the Taliban, and he does, and the deal is to withdraw all U.S. troops by May 1st of this year, 2021, 3 months ago, right? Trump is so happy about it that he invites the Taliban to come to Camp David, the presidential retreat here in the U.S. in Maryland. And on September 11th of last year, they were supposed to, the Taliban was supposed to meet Trump at a big festival at Camp David. Well, that falls through. So fast forward to today. Joe Biden wins the presidency. Joe Biden takes over. Joe Biden decides that he's going to try to abide by Trump's agreement, even though a lot of his advisors and a lot of people in the Pentagon think this is really dangerous, the U.S. pulling out of Afghanistan. The Afghan army can't defend itself. The country's going to fall apart and the Taliban will take over again. Nonetheless, Biden decides to abide by Trump's agreement. But Biden sees that he really can't get out by May 1st. It's too soon. That would have been May 1st of this year, right? That Trump wanted us out. So Biden goes and says, I'm going to do it a little later. Biden did the withdrawal from May 1st until this week or last week. So pushed it until August instead of May 1st. So now you got the situation where the U.S. pulls out all its troops, and what happens? Taliban goes on the attack, and within just like 2 weeks, takes over the entire country. Now, the Biden folks are saying that U.S. intelligence told Biden that could never happen. It was going to take a year or two. I'm going to pause right now because we're getting to the end, and then I'm going to do part 2 of this video. Hey folks, so this is part 2 of my Afghanistan explainer. I told you in the last clip how we got into Afghanistan, what's going on right now, and that basically Donald Trump is the person who negotiated the deal with the Taliban to remove all U.S. troops by May 1st of this year. Joe Biden decided to abide by Trump's agreement, and instead of removing troops by May 1st, he pushed it back 3 months to August. U.S. troops pull out, Afghan government falls, crazy Taliban people take over. Now, you kind of get into this issue of, who's to blame? Was it Biden's fault? Most of the experts feel like it's kind of every president's fault in a way. That we got into Afghanistan to take out Osama bin Laden. We ended up doing that under Obama, but then the mission kind of changed and we decided we were going to build a democratic country in a place where it's not clear democracy can work. We were trying to build an army in a place where the locals don't even want to fight for their own rights. They don't want to fight against the Taliban. So what do, right? We spent a lot of money. Finally, Joe Biden comes in and Biden feels, ironically, agrees with Trump on this, that it's useless. We've tried for 20 years. We're never going to win. We're never going to turn Afghanistan into a democracy, and they're never going to defend themselves. Let's just pull out, cut our losses. We've lost this war. So Biden agrees with Trump on that, pulls out. Now, so from my perspective, even though what's happening is horrible in Afghanistan today, with people running to the airport trying to get out, with the U.S. rushing to get its employees out from the U.S. Embassy, I think it was inevitable, right? There was no way to win this war. We lost the war. We were going to pull out at some point, whether in 5 years from now, 10 years from now, we'd spend a lot more money. And in the end, the same thing would have happened. The government would have fallen. Now, I'm a little annoyed that everything went so quickly. I'm concerned about how quickly Biden did the withdrawal. Now, mind you, he did it because Donald Trump reached a treaty agreement, a negotiation that he signed, and Biden felt beholden to Trump's treaty. Having said that, I still feel like he should have told Trump to go to hell and not done the treaty. But In any case, the bigger thing that bothers me is there were a lot of Afghan translators and interpreters who helped U.S. forces over the last 20 years. We had promised them that if they helped us, if they worked for us, we would get them out and bring them back to the States and they could immigrate to the United States. Well, what happened? A lot of them did come here. I've actually met several here in D.C. My Uber drivers have been young Afghans, but 10,000 of them were still in the process of applying for visas. They were stuck in the process, and the process was a 4-year process. These 10,000 had 4 more years to get their visas. What happens? The U.S. leaves, no more visas, no more anything. They can't get out of the country now. We've screwed these 10,000 interpreters. That really bothers me. And this is not a new story. People have been talking about this for months, for years actually, but certainly for months. And as somebody who likes Biden, I will still say I fault Biden for this. He was warned. He didn't make a contingency to get these people out of there, and we screwed these people who helped us in Afghanistan. Okay, this is part 2 of my video. I'm going to do a part. Hey folks, this is video 3 of 3 of my Afghanistan explainer, telling you what's going on in Afghanistan. How did it all start? Why were we there? Why were we leaving? You can watch my earlier videos to get all the summary of that. Let's fast forward to today. Now, I'm sure some of the trolls in the comments are going to say, this is Joe Biden's fault. It's not Donald Trump's fault. You know, what's interesting about this is just 1 month ago, and I'm going to show the video in a second, Donald Trump was bragging about how the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan was all his doing, how Joe Biden and everybody was trying to stop it, was trying to slow it down, but they couldn't because Trump reached a really good agreement that nobody could break, and we were going to pull U.S. troops out completely in the next couple months, and there was nothing anybody could do about it, right? And it was a great idea. Now, I don't totally disagree with Trump on this in the sense that I'm not sure what we could do in Afghanistan. I don't think we should have withdrawn so quickly. I talk about that in the video number 2. But nonetheless, I'm going to show you this clip of Trump talking a month ago, saying exactly what I just said, claiming credit for withdrawal and saying Joe Biden and the powers that be in Washington do not have a choice. They're going to have to withdraw completely, and they're going to have to do it immediately. So that's what I want you to think about the next time you hear somebody say, oh, it's Joe Biden's fault, and oh, Donald Trump would have done it differently. Yes, Donald Trump would have done it differently. Instead of withdrawing our troops in August of 2021, Donald Trump would have withdrawn our troops May 1st of 2021, and the same thing would have happened.
I started the process. All the troops are coming back home. They couldn't stop the process. 21 years is enough, don't we think? 21 years. They couldn't stop the process. They wanted to, but it was very tough to stop the process when other things were at. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. It's a shame. 21 years by a government that wouldn't last. The only way they last is if we're there. What are we going to say? We'll stay for another 21 years, then we'll stay for another 50. The whole thing is ridiculous. So we're bringing our troops back home.
So there you have it. That's why we got into Afghanistan. That's why we withdrew. It was a deal Donald Trump made that Joe Biden decided to keep. I'm not completely thrilled that Joe Biden decided to keep it, but I also agree that it's just not clear what we could have done differently. Afghanistan would have fallen anyway. It's very sad. But as I said in the earlier video, the U.S. did still screw over the interpreters and the translators, the Afghans who helped us, who we promised to get out of the country and let immigrate to the U.S., and we've got 10,000 that we still didn't help. That's wrong. And that sucks.